Hello, I thought I would just make a soft-spoken video talking about something that has been a relevant topic recently. So, a lot of people out there are uncertain as to what this is all about. Now, I have theories and ideas as to where I do believe that it's heading, and I do believe all of this heads toward a direction of control, but I'm going to explain a little bit about what it is in this video. So, currently, we have a monetary system of cash, and we have digital dollars that we use in place of cash. Now, a lot of you probably think, well, I'm using digital dollars now when I use a debit card or when I use my phone to make a payment through RFID, radio frequency identification, or NFC, near field communication. Well, actually, near field communication and RFID have been around for a long while, for several decades, but they're different than what this is. So, a central bank digital currency that they are rolling out in July begins in July, but it does not do away with cash completely. Every dollar bill, and from ones, fives, tens, 20s, so on, hundreds, whatever, every one of them has a serial number. And each serial number represents that unique bill. And with CBDCs, or a digital dollar, a solely digital dollar, each monetary dollar will have a separate unique code. But in this case, it's encrypted in a digital form of coding instead of written on an actual physical bill. Now, right now, we have the Federal Reserve, which issues the money, and we're going in debt tremendously. But we have the Federal Reserve okays the monetary system to allow certain amounts of money to be distributed, monetary assets to be distributed to banks, and those banks can take them out as loans to people and things like that. Say if you're in England, right now you use banknotes and you use the digital dollars. A lot of people go, well, we're already using digital dollars. Technically, yes, but this particular digital dollar, known as a CBDC, or central bank digital currency, are digital tokens. They're very similar to cryptocurrency, but they are not backed by a blockchain ledger. Cryptocurrency is backed in what's known as blockchain technology, and it's backed in these ledgers that are distributed and stored in different servers. This one it's issued by a central bank, and I from what I understand, instead of a commercial bank, the currency is issued and coded by a central bank, and each digital note that is distributed to banks and individuals and businesses, it's mostly right now for businesses when it rolls out in July, but each of them have a different coding. Right now, when we do a transaction, like I said, through the RFID or NFC technology on the phone, and it contacts the bank or your Google Pay, PayPal, all these companies, MasterCard, and they're all communicating with each other. Right now, this is solely through a central bank under the Federal Reserve. It comes directly from them. They're thinking of issuing a card or text code to those with a flip phone, a text code in the future. Now, right now it exists side by side with physical bills, but I'd say 2028 or so they'll be rolling them out more commonly and saying people need to go toward that direction. Now, I don't agree with having just digital dollars. I think that cash should remain an option. But what they're saying is this is a completely digital dollar. It's a digital asset, digital money. And you can't invest in It's like, how you have your banknotes, and right there's the central bank digital currency, and your bank deposits and e-money. Digital money and banknotes or dollar bills. Banknotes can be transferred to the CBDC that's coming in. Your current code in your bank that represents your paycheck, if that's how you get your checks, can be transferred into digital dollars, but not vice versa. So digital dollars cannot be transferred into cash, but cash can be transferred into digital dollars under the CBDC. So what's going on? They're claiming this in the name of security. They're saying that it's going to be more secure. Uh, I have issues with this because if they don't agree with something about you, or in a controlled society where I know 198 countries have agreed to roll out a digital version of their currency under their particular country's reserve, but I think that this is heading in a dangerous direction because one individual can control the many assets and pretty much just control the entire one world society if you head in that direction. And I know there's a lot of prophecy about that as well, but I do believe it to head in a dangerous direction. But regarding whether or not physical cash will exist, right now it seems as though, at least through 2028, physical banknotes, cash, will exist side by side with the CBDC. The main difference is you can't transfer one for the other, and CBDCs cannot be transferred or taken out at an ATM for cash. They cannot be, you see, the banks will be under it, and there will be no stocks of it. The CBDC will have no stock. So if you're asking, oh, how do I buy? I would love to know all this stuff. I don't know how it works. I mean, I wish I knew how stocks work. I'd invest a simple amount in there, a small amount, because I don't have a lot. No doubt. We're living, paycheck to paycheck. But um, a CBDC has no stock. Basically, it's you really can't invest in a CBDC since there's really no stock to it. It's no different than what we're doing right now, except in digital form. The nation's existing monetary supply already takes place from the Federal Reserve, so this is no different. It means basically, the only way to invest in any type of CBDC is to actually hold the currency in your account. So basically, investing in it would be just like holding money in your bank or holding physical cash in your hands right now. So, and that's from Forbes and our um, Bank of America, Bank of England, and stuff like that. Those countries. So it would not replace cash. That's the biggest question. It can't replace cash right now. Now, a lot of countries, whether it's Kazakhstan, um, England, United States, Kazakhstan, they're launching a pilot run for it. The USA is beginning it in July of 2023, but it's mainly for businesses. And some businesses, a credit transaction takes up to 3 days or 72 hours to process. Say if you pay it directly out of your bank, it doesn't really matter because it takes 72 hours for that monetary transaction to show up in the bank. Under this particular financial system, I believe it's supposed to be faster and instant. And since it's all controlled by the central banking system, they claim that it bypasses the smaller banks where the transaction can take place quicker and it doesn't have to wait. You don't have to wait and wait and wait and wait. But it can't replace cash because it's nothing more than a digital coded version of our cash. And so, with that being the case, you have both of them coexisting at the same time for a period of time until they decided to create a DD or just digital dollar altogether. But a CBDC, see, Bitcoins are different. Now, it's not like the blockchain ledger you're used to. From what I understand, they're private. They're not like public. It's in cryptocurrency. When the more people invest, the more the stock is worth. The more people invest in something, the more the crypto is worth. With a CBDC, it's worth the face value of whatever, a dollar or two, or 5, 10, 20, whatever it is whatever it is. And each is represented by a code of serial numbers. And CBDCs are private, whereas crypto is public. So it's centralized, and crypto is not. And they claim that anonymity is a lot more secure it's a benefit for those that invest in crypto versus if you were to use the central bank or the government's currency that they're working on. There's more transparency, and a lot of people are like, well, I'm concerned about that. If there's more transparency in my transactions, then there's a privacy concern. And that's understandable because you want privacy, but also you don't want something leading toward entire global one world control where you either comply or your way of life is nigh. You either comply or your way of life is null. That's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't happen. And it's really kind of complicated, but the bottom line is a central bank digital currency will have banknotes or serial numbers that are represented by code rather than physical bills. They will not be backed up by physical bills, but you can transfer your physical money or your current assets being held in your bank account over to the FedNow wallet or the federal wallet. FedNow is mostly for government and mostly for your businesses. One aspect I guess that they would be touting is that, oh, these businesses in our local government can't say, well, we got this much funding for infrastructure, but they pocketed the money and used it for something else. They are probably trying to claim that the assets will be visible and they will be set for specific things, like, oh, I'm going to have to use this asset for the infrastructure. So the highways are going to have to be fixed. I'm not going to be able to pocket that money. But I don't think the governments will allow that to happen because they are always going to be crooked and they are always going to be a self-serve system, really. But maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe it will help more transparency take place in the long run where our government system and state level governments will actually be able to be forced to use the money on what it needs to be used. But then again, also, if certain governments are forced to do it, they're going to mess around and make the people be forced to use the CBDCs for the digital dollars for whatever they want it to. Kind of like a situation of, you buy this, you only buy this much or that much, and it's controlled. Now that type of thing takes place under communism and socialism, and that's kind of what they seem to promote. And I don't like that. But they say, oh, it can't work under a capitalist society. But a free market capitalist society, if you have socialism without a mixture of a free market capitalist society becomes communism, then that becomes a dictatorship and total control. That's just inevitable science. I mean, that's just inevitable economics. I mean, but the problem is there's more transparency, but where there's more transparency, there will be more government control because if they're controlled, they control you more. But the problem with that, good and well, they're not going to put the funds where they need to go. Just like now, when you look at our infrastructure, the infrastructure bills, they were supposed to have gotten $2 billion some odd dollars. Our roads are still a mess. Everything's still just a chaos. They'll do patch jobs here and there, and the roads are still completely just a complete mess. And it's just not. But the money's not going where it is, where the assets are supposed to be distributed to, and what they're supposed to be going toward. It's just not. So I'm I'm gonna say they'll probably do the same thing with this and hide it under other excuses. But basically, this new U.S. CBDC is just going to be called the Federal Reserve. Some say there'll be a Fed wallet, and some say I know a lot of people talk about a UBI, Universal Basic Income. I don't see that right now on this. Elon touted, he talked about having a UBI on top of our on top of our income, because it takes thousands and thousands of dollars to live comfortably in a month anymore. It would take $6,000 at least just to barely live comfortably, to be able to get the things you need in this day and time. Actually, more than that, probably more like seven, because there's so many bills are so expensive, bills are so high. Food and basic necessities have gone sky high. They've skyrocketed. The market, it's such a volatile time, and it's not good. But the Central Bank of the United States would provide this nation with this, what they call a flexible, stable monetary financial system known as the Federal Reserve. Under the CBDC, the Federal Reserve Board will be providing these codes of money side by side with the physical bank notes, but it'll be a solely digital asset. Honestly, I don't see the reason, unless for control. I really don't see the reason in creating another digital dollar side by side when we already, as I've stated in a previous video explaining how these transactions take place, have pretty much been using the fundamental basics of a digital dollar all this time. We've been used to it since at least 2010 in some form or fashion, and commonplace. I don't know how this is any different, except they're saying that it's going to be used for more transparency. Bottom line. I was thinking it was going to be a way that, we'll relieve the debt and we'll start over with this central bank digital currency and we won't have any debt. But that's not the case. You can't do that if it's going to be the same monetary system, just without physical cash. As of right now, they're saying physical cash will live side by side with this federal wallet or CBDC. They're saying they'll both live side by side. From what I understand, it's just merely for mainly for businesses and large banks to have a system of servers under the federal government to transfer their monetary funds easier, and they claim to have more transparency in their transactions. So, bottom line, to monitor things at a higher extent, to monitor things more closely, and claim that it is to make sure that money goes where it's supposed to go. But with the government, I highly doubt that will happen, because you look at the infrastructure out there right now, they're going to find a way to not let infrastructure, education, you name it, transportation, aviation, and I don't even fly, but everything is so, homes and businesses, everything has gone so expensive, and income is not rising to match the cost of living and inflation, and income is not rising to match it. So it's chaos. And out of chaos comes control. So I still don't think, even if they do this, that it will be, I don't think that they will be putting the money where it needs to go, even if there is said transparency where it says there is. I don't think so. But that's one thing they claim, is that there'll be transparency so the money will go where it needs to go. I don't know. And secondly, that physical dollars for us will coexist side by side with the digital dollars or the new CBDC. It'll be the same thing, only digital banknotes instead of physical, and you can't transfer it out for cash. And it's just an option. But when they start out an option, later it usually becomes mandated. But that's what they claim, and that's the difference in that's what they say about it, the CBDCs. So I just thought I'd explain a little bit of it. This individual here said that a new federal digital currency releases in July. It's a digital form of our current currency, a fiat currency, and it's issued and regulated by a central bank, and it's programmable. Now, the thing about, like I stated before, the thing about a programmable currency is it can be turned on or off as they see fit, which leads toward more of a controlled society. If you don't feel a certain way, think a certain way, or do a certain thing, then you're shut off from the system. And when something's programmable, it can be designed to be spent on what it's designed to be spent on. So, say if they specify that something has to be spent on a particular good or service, then it has to be spent on a particular good or service. If something is specified that you have to spend this much on canned goods, this much on water, this much on transportation, this much on food or drinks, or this much on entertainment only, then that's the controlled amount. So that's programmable, and that's the danger of it. One positive aspect they're trying to say, like I mentioned before, is that being programmable, there are certain amounts of assets that will be distributed to each government branch or each type of like infrastructure and say, oh, this has got to be put toward infrastructure. And that's what they're going to claim. And like I said, I find they'll probably find a way around that. It can also be used to surveil all transactions, every single one of them. Not just a few, but all. We already are used to that. We already do that. They already do it, and we're used to seeing it. And right now, everything you purchase doesn't show up except on the receipt. When you go to a place, it just shows where you went and how much you spent. But this payment system will be fully launched in July, and it is laying the groundwork for a CBDC, a central bank digital currency, like I mentioned. And like I stated, these are the details on that. So I would like to thank you for listening to this video, and I hope you found it helpful or informative, and hope it gave a little bit of insight into this new CBDC. Thank you, and I'll talk soon. Show support, like, subscribe, share, and if you didn't find this video interesting, I still hope you found it calming, and that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. So thank you, and I'll talk later.